Hello, everyone. Jacquie Edwards here. Thank you so much for joining me. I have just been off for 2 weeks now, so you haven't seen any live videos for a little bit because I've been on holiday. I just got back late last week from Thailand. It was wonderful. I got some much needed sunshine, relaxation, and I had a whole load of new ideas. Whenever I go on holiday, honestly, it's like my brain just explodes with like all these amazing ideas and new projects. So some of you will have seen I've got a brand new workshop that we're going to be doing next week. So if you are ready to systemize your rent-to-rent business, make sure you check that out. I will hunt down the link and pop it in here in a second. But today I wanted to talk about limited companies. So a big question a lot of you rent-to-renters have when you're just getting started is how to set up your business. And do you need to have a limited company to get going? Now, I've talked about this before. I think I've got a really old blog post on my website, but I wanted to talk about this again because I find a lot of people are jumping straight in and registering a limited company when they don't have to. So the very simple answer is no, you do not have to have a limited company in order to do rent-to-rent. My motion camera is going crazy. Notifications on my phone. So no, you do not need to have a limited company to do rent-to-rent. You can do rent-to-rent as a sole trader or as a partnership, which means basically that you haven't registered your business with anyone. So you can basically just say, today I am a rent-to-renter, and your business is ready. Just like you could say, today I am a plumber, and now you have a plumbing business. You don't have to register that business with anybody here in the UK. Now, you can, if you want to, set up a limited company. Now, there are pros and cons to both. A limited company gives you personally a little bit more protection because you set up a limited company and that is its own separate legal entity, separate from you. So if something goes wrong in your company, they can't come and sue you personally. So, if it all goes wrong and you lose a bunch of money and you end up owing people money, you can just close that limited company down and it won't affect your personal assets. People can't come and, take your personal home away or touch your personal bank accounts unless you've done something fraudulent. So if you are ready to commit fraud and defraud people of their money and basically do the wrong thing on purpose, then there's nothing that's going to protect you from that. They're going to come after you. So I know none of you are going to do that, so we don't have to worry about that. So that limited company gives you that protection, you and your business assets separate. It is a bit more complicated when you've got a limited company set up because, again, you're two separate legal entities. You have to do two sets of kind of bookkeeping and accounting records. So it's a bit more advanced. It's a bit more costly. So it can be quite cheap. Anybody can set up a limited company. It costs like 20 quid. I use a company called Companies Made Simple to set up my limited companies. So it's cheap to set up, but in the long term, you're going to be paying more for accounting fees because you need to submit accounts every year. There's other kind of statements that you have to submit to, Companies House and different, HMRC and things like that. So there's more work, more effort involved. And one of the biggest cons that I see, cons like negatives, not like cons like fraud, but one of the biggest negatives I see with people setting up a limited company straight away is the time it takes them to do all of these things. So the time it's taking you to think, should I have a limited company? Should I have a sole trader? How should I set my business up? All that time that you're spending with thinking through those things and getting that stuff set up, you're not spending finding the properties and actually getting out there and doing the viewings and making the negotiations and getting the properties on board. So the time you spend dilly-dallying between, should I set up a limited company? Should I be a sole trader? Is time that you're not earning money. So this decision needs to take you 15 minutes or less. So right now you need to decide, am I going to be a limited company or am I going to be a sole trader? As a sole trader, yes, you have a personal liability, but things are easier. You just start now. So wherever you're at, you're just like, I am Jackie's property company and away we go. You can change things at any time. So at some point in the future, if you're like, hey, I want to be a limited company now, you can set up a limited company and switch everything from your sole trader into that limited company. So it's almost like, unless you really know what you're doing and you've got some accounting background or you've got an accountant on board or you've got a bookkeeper on board, you're experienced in business already, there really is no reason to set up a limited company straight away. You can just get started as a sole trader. Even if you are partnering up with somebody. So another question I see is people are like, I found a joint venture partner at my local PIN meeting. We're going to set up this limited company together. Again, be very careful doing that, because if you set up a limited company with somebody else, and if that person has any negative financial kind of credit, or they've got, in the future they do something bad and anything negative is associated with that person, you are linked with them forever because you've set up this limited company. So even if you close this limited company down and 10 years in the future your partner commits fraud, that person is forever linked with you. They'll be able to search that person's name, and your name will always pop up as a co-director of a company, even if that company is closed down. So you want to be very, very careful before you set up a company with somebody else that you don't know very well, or you're just getting started with. It's much easier to just start a business and say, here's a contract, we're going to work together, here's who's going to do what, and let's try it out for a little while. If it works, maybe we'll set up a limited company. If it doesn't, here's how we'll split the assets and go our separate way. So keep things as simple as possible. And I think that sole trader from the very beginning is the simplest way you can go forward. Because again, you can always put it into a limited company later. Now with a sole trader, what that means is basically you are the business. So it all goes through your personal tax return. So you will still have to do more tax stuff, and you'll still have to do the bookkeeping, but you won't have to do it twice. You won't have to do it for you and for the business. You'll just have to do it for you, and your business is a part of you. I'd highly recommend that you have a separate bank account. That's one bank account that only business stuff goes through, and then all your other personal bank accounts that personal transactions go through. So make sure, even if you're a sole trader, that you keep everything really, really separate, just to make it easy to kind of keep track of the books and keep track of the records. But highly recommend just get out there, get started, be a sole trader, call yourself, Joe's Property Company, and away you go. That's all you have to do. Again, if you're a bit more advanced, you've got some experience, you can set up a limited company. Another, benefit of a limited company is I found that landlords and agents took me a little bit more serious when I had a limited company. I guess it just made them think, oh, that person, took the time to set up a company, or, because they have a company, that's just a more serious thing, which is a bit weird to me because anybody can set up a company for, 20 quid or whatever. So, and having that company protects me personally, so I really don't have any skin in the game. But anyways, I found the agents and the landlords took me a little bit more seriously when I was able to say I have a limited company. Now, again, that's not to say you have to have a limited company. You can still be taken seriously without a limited company. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of companies in every industry in the world that have not registered as a limited company, and that are operating as sole traders. There are big businesses, small businesses, really profitable, successful businesses out there that are sole traders. So it is completely okay, it's completely acceptable, and it is completely credible to just have a sole trader. So if somebody asks you, have you got a limited company? You can say, no, I've registered, or no, I've set up my company under my own name. Something as simple as that. You don't have to go into big lengthy explanations. You can even say, no, my accountant recommended that we keep it simple to start with. Or my accountant recommended for a really good one, I would say, is my accountant recommended, or my solicitor recommended, for the protection of my clients, that I remain a sole trader so that I have a personal liability to each and every one of you. Holy crap. That just perfect. If I was a landlord and you were like, I'm a sole trader, because then I have that personal kind of responsibility and that personal liability to you, that just makes me feel like you're really in it, that I can really count on you, versus being like, oh, I've set up this limited company, so that way I'm a little bit separate, and if anything goes wrong, I can just walk away. That's what a limited company tells me. But it says different things to different people, and everybody's situation is different. So one final word is that there are kind of tax consequences. So a lot of people set up a limited company because there are some positive tax benefits associated with it in some situations. Now, everybody has a different tax situation, and your accountant will be able to advise you whether you should be a sole trader or be a limited company for tax purposes. Now, as if you have a high income earning job, so you're already in like a higher tax bracket, it can often be better and more beneficial tax-wise to have a limited company. That way you hold all your company's profit in that limited company and you pay yourself very, very little. Because the more you pay yourself, so if you have a sole trader and you're already a high income earner, that your company's income automatically gets added on top of your kind of working income or your corporate income, and it puts you up into an even higher tax bracket, or you already just pay that kind of 40-50% tax on anything that comes into your sole trader company. Whereas if you have a limited company, that limited company only pays, I think it's 20% tax, which I think might be going down actually to like 19% tax. Anyways, 19-20% income tax in your company versus maybe a 40% income tax rate that you would have as a high income earner. So, oh my goodness, the phone's ringing, phone's going crazy. It started blowing up as soon as I came on live. I get no messages, no phone calls all day long the rest of my time. Anyways, that's what I wanted to tell you about today. So it is a decision, and everybody will have their own separate circumstances. So what's right for one person as a sole trader or limited company might not be right for somebody else. So you have to decide what is right for you and for your business. And you need to make that decision in 15 minutes or less. It's not a big decision. There's not a lot to think about. If you can't decide, just start as a sole trader. In 6 months' time, you can do the research and go and become a limited company if you want to. Unless you've got an accountant that's told you to be a limited company, unless you've got experience with limited companies or with other companies, just be a sole trader, get started, get going, get that first property under your belt, and then you can move forward any way you want. All right, that's it. I have talked long enough. Oh, I was going to get my new program for you. I think it's right here. So it's called Systemize to Scale. So I'm going to drop a link here in the comments. Check that out. If you already have your first rent-to-rent or your first rent-to-rent deal is imminently on kind of the horizon, then this course is for you to share with you all of the systems that I use in my rent-to-rent business. So that way you can scale more easily, because I know it can be super hard to find that first deal. You're out there like pounding the pavements, you're doing all the work, everything just seems such a slog. And then you think, oh my God, am I gonna have to do this again and again and again every time I get a new property? Is it gonna be this hard? No, it doesn't have to be this hard. And that's what I wanna share the systems for. So check that out. I'm running the workshop next week live online. It's the only time it's gonna be live, so it's kind of like a one-time only thing. So if you are interested, if you are ready to systemize your business, check that out. Otherwise, I will be back again next week for another live video. I will see you then.